So the focus of my lab over these past recent years has been really on understanding the molecular basis of pigmentation. So pigmentation in the skin in humans, so the pigmentation is really, the molecular basis of our color, how we can get photoprotection against ionizing radiations, which is normally really one of the main causes of melanoma. So we have been really interested in understanding how melanocytes produce the pigments melanin, what are the pathways, what are the molecular mechanisms that are involved in the biogenesis of these little factories that really synthesize the pigments that is so important to photoprotect the skin, and also how, for example, in what's so-called lysosomal diseases, so these are genetic diseases in which the genes are mutated. So the genes that are mutated in these diseases encode proteins that are involved in the formation of these organelles. And they are involved in the formation because they are involved in all the intracellular trafficking, all these pathways that exist in cells to produce organelles. And so we have been really deciphering, the molecular basis of these diseases in the way from the cell biological point of view. So at the moment, we are also very interested in how, for example, in the skin, cells communicate with each other, and we have been focusing on a very interesting type of vesicle that is called hexosome. That was one of my discoveries in the early 90s when I was a postdoc. So now we are really understanding how these cells can communicate via this novel mode of communication. So I'm actually very excited with the discoveries that we are making in pigment cells, because I think this is novel, and this is we have new ways of maybe treating what's so-called pigmentary disorders. But also I think that my main satisfaction has been really the discovery of hexosomes when I was a postdoc, because this was for me the best example of how a cell biologist, a very fundamental cell biologist working on the bench, can be really, really helpful in trying to translate this very fundamental research to medical applications. So it's really a bench to the bed type of research, and I think it's a very good example, and there are now clinical trials using hexosomes. And these exosomes maybe can be used as anti-cancer vaccines, for example. So this is a good satisfaction for an academic and for a cell biologist to really see that this science that we do is not only, to get concepts or to draw models. It's really a very good way of showing that scientists that are working at the bench can be really helpful to find novel therapeutical applications that we can work really in a translational way with the medics and with the physicians. I basically really work a lot in music. I'm not someone that like to be, I like to concentrate, but I'm much more concentrated when I'm listening to music, which is not the case for many people. So I listen a lot to Brazilian music, Gal Costa, Caetano Veloso. So this is very inspiring for me, and it's also because I understand the words. But, at the moment I also listen a lot to David Bowie. I'm really a very big fan of David Bowie, so Space Oddity has been lastly one of my favorites. And when I arrive in Lisbon, really the best thing for me is to go to the cafe and have a small coffee, and this is what I really miss in Paris. And so each time I arrive in Lisbon and I go to the two cafes close to my parents, where I go since I was born, and I go there, there's always the same people there, and I drink my coffee.